Okay, so I have simultaneously good news and news that makes me want to throw up. So let's start with the good part, because the bad part is what they actually did to these men. So, 6 former Mississippi officers plead guilty to state charges for torturing 2 black men. Because that's totally what I want in my police officers. And at least one looks like a legit skinhead. The others, I guess they could be neo-Nazis, but you can't really tell. But the one guy looks like a legit skinhead. Anyway, 6 white former Mississippi law officers pleaded guilty on Monday to state charges for torturing 2 black men in a racist assault. All 6 had recently admitted their guilt in a connected federal civil rights case. Ugh. Well, at least they pled guilty, so either because they know they're scum or because there was a plea deal. In the gruesome crimes committed by men tasked with enforcing the law, federal prosecutors saw echoes of Mississippi's dark history, including the 1964 killing of 3 civil rights workers after a deputy handed them off to the Ku Klux Klan. Locally, the sheriff whose deputies committed the crimes this year called it the worst case of police brutality he had ever seen. Prosecutors say some of the officers nicknamed themselves the Goon Squad because of their willingness to use excessive force and cover up attacks, including the assault that ended with a deputy shooting one victim in the mouth. I'm sorry, if some of the officers in this group are calling themselves the Goon Squad, how do other officers not question why they're calling themselves that? I mean, that's a major red flag. Unless they're role-playing Princess Bride, they should not be calling themselves the Goon Squad. They just shouldn't. In January, the officers entered a house without a warrant and handcuffed and assaulted the 2 men with stun guns, a sex toy, and other objects. Oh, because that's not gross. The officers mocked them with racial slurs throughout a 90-minute torture session, then devised a cover-up that included planting drugs and a gun, leading to false charges that stood against the victims for months. To say that these people are disgusting excuses for human beings is actually being way too kind. My God. Their conspiracy unraveled after one officer told the sheriff he had lied. Oh good, one grew a conscience. Leading to confessions from the others. The charges against the victims weren't dropped until June after federal and state investigators got involved, according to their attorney. Yeah, I've heard horror stories of how once someone gets charged with something, even if they're discovered to be innocent, it's still hard to stop the system, which once you find out that that these people should not have been charged, it should be just easy to do, but apparently some places it's like pulling teeth. The men include 5 former Rankin County Sheriff's deputies, Brett McAlpin, Hunter Elward, Christian Dedman, Jeffrey Middleton, and Daniel Opdyke, and a former police officer from the city of Richland, Joshua Hartfield, who was off duty during the assault. Like that fucking matters. But, yeah, it's gross no matter what. Maybe, I guess it's slightly more gross that they were on duty, but, no, it's still horrible. Elward pleaded guilty to aggravated assault for shooting his handgun in the victim's mouth in what authorities called a mock execution, thinking the weapon would dry fire without a bullet in the chamber. Oh my God, you are a fucking moron to boot. Not only are you a racist asshole, but you are a fucking moron. I mean, did the case on the set of Rust not give you a clue that you cannot... Actually, that's what they teach you. That always, when you're holding a gun, always assume there's a bullet in there. What is wrong with you? They appeared Monday in jumpsuits with the names of the jails covered by tape. Don't know why. They agreed to sentences recommended by state prosecutors ranging from 5 to 30 years, although the judge isn't bound by that. Time served for the state's convictions will run concurrently with the potentially longer federal sentences they'll receive in November. The victims, Michael Corey Jenkins and Eddie Terrell Parker, arrived together to Monday's hearing and sat in the front row, just feet from their attackers' families. They were embraced by Monica Lee, the mother of Damian Cameron, a black man who died in Elwood's custody in 2021. I enjoyed the view of seeing the walk of shame, head down, the disgust everybody felt for them, and that they feel for themselves, Parker said after the officers were led away in shackles. I hope this is a lesson to everybody out there. Justice will be served. Yes. At least one of them grew a conscience. That's good to know, but still, you should have had a conscience when this happened, so it wouldn't have happened. I really am curious what this guy, especially the one who grew a conscience and admitted that he lied, I really wonder what he thought he was accomplishing by this. I really do. The charges followed an Associated Press investigation in March that linked some of the officers to at least 4 violent encounters since 2019 that left 2 black men dead. In addition to Jenkins's lasting injuries, another black man also accused them of shoving a gun inside his mouth. The Justice Department launched a civil rights probe in February. All 6 of the former officers pleaded guilty to state charges of obstruction of justice and conspiracy to hinder prosecution. Dedman and Elward, who kicked in a door, also admitted to home invasion. After details of the case became public, some residents pointed to a police culture they said gives officers carte blanche to abuse their power. Again, obviously, because if you can call yourself the Goon Squad and nobody raises an eyebrow and questions why you're calling yourself that, again, unless you are cosplaying from Princess Bride, then yeah, obviously the police culture is like, we don't care. Rankin County's majority white suburbs have been a destination for white flight out of the capital, Jackson, which is home to one of the highest percentages of black residents of any major U.S. city. The officers warned Jenkins and Parker to go back to Jackson or their side of the Pearl River, the federal charging documents say. Jenkins and Parker were targeted because a white neighbor complained that 2 black men were staying at the home with a white woman, court documents show. I'm sorry, what century do we live in? Yeah, I will bet you anything that this white neighbor is a Trump supporter, wants to go back into the 1950s when black people knew their place. Ugh, disgusting. Actually, that white neighbor should be charged too, because what the actual fuck? How is that even remotely a situation where you should investigate? Let alone have the police investigate. I mean, what the hell? Parker was a childhood friend of the homeowner, Christy Whaley, who was at the hospital at the time. She's been paralyzed since she was 15, and Parker helping care for her. Okay, that sounds like a decent thing to do. What happened to you? He's a blessing. Every time I've needed him, he's been there, Whaley said in a February interview. There were times I've been living here by myself and I didn't know what I was going to do. Again, great. What does that have to do with attacking two innocent men? Parker and Jenkins have left Mississippi and aren't sure they will ever return for a long stay. Wait a minute. So Parker... Okay, let me get this straight. So Parker and Jenkins are the two black men who were attacked. But it was a white neighbor that called the cops on them. So it wasn't... So either it was a different white neighbor... Well, we don't know if this neighbor is white. Let me... Oh, okay. I see. That the home of the woman that they were staying at. Okay. All right. So, forget what I said about why are you attacking two black men? Because she wasn't the one who called the police on them, but still, this guy sounds like a great guy. Why are you attacking him? All right. Jenkins still has difficulty speaking because of his injuries. The gunshot lacerated his tongue and broke his jaw before exiting his neck. Ugh. He can only eat soft foods easily and has recurrent nightmares. As far as justice, I knew we were going to get it, Jenkins has said, but I thought it was maybe going to take longer. I still want to know what these officers were thinking breaking into a person's home because they were living with a white woman? Are you fucking kidding me? Other consequences remain to be determined. Lee claims Elward and a current deputy not linked to the Jenkins assault killed her son. A grand jury declined to indict Elward after he punched Cameron and shocked him with a stun gun, but a Rankin County judge ruled Wednesday that Lee's claims of excessive force could move forward against him, and Lee said the FBI told her they're reviewing the case. Separately, Carvis Johnson, the black man who said another deputy pointed a gun into his mouth, filed a federal lawsuit from behind bars alleging that McAlpin beat him during an arrest and told him to stay out of Rankin County. Jenkins and Parker, meanwhile, are seeking $400 million in damages in their federal civil rights lawsuit against Rankin County. Rankin County Sheriff Brian Bailey applauded the investigations that led to the guilty pleas. Okay. Now, I'm glad that he agrees that this was horrible and that, that they should be held accountable. But, again, how can you hear someone calling themselves the Goon Squad and not question it? I mean, come on. Unless he asked them and they made some bullshit story. I believe today's guilty pleas show the community that our system of checks and balances is effective, Bailey said in a statement after the hearing. An unbiased and impartial investigation into these former officers uncovered their criminal actions. Bailey had acknowledged his lax body camera policy failed. After the officers pleaded guilty, he promised to change it. What was it? Just instead of mandatory, it was, if you feel like it. What lacks policy? I mean, officers who want to do bad shit are not going to use their body camera. I don't see why you're not making it mandatory, but okay. Malik Shabazz, one of Jenkins and Parker's attorneys, said Bailey is directly responsible for the vicious acts of his subordinates. Because again, how can you do things like hear about the Goon Squad and ignore it. Because if they're calling themselves that, I'm sure that worse shit was going down in front of that sheriff's nose. Court documents unsealed by federal prosecutors suggest only some members of the Goon Squad participated in the illegal raid. Oh, well, at least that. There are other Rankin County deputies known to the United States Attorney, the document said. Okay. We would certainly hope that they continue to investigate the Goon Squad and other outstanding claims that may exist against these officers, as well as other officers, says Trent Walker, another attorney for Jenkins and Parker. Now, I really feel bad for that woman that they were staying with, because now neither Jenkins nor Parker live in Mississippi. So, did she go with them? Is she going to find someone else to stay with her that's going to help take care of her? Because, yes, they are the main victims here, because these these former officers are pieces of shit, but she's been victimized too, because they were her caregivers, and now she has to find someone else. So, yeah, even if you're on the jury and you're just as big of a racist piece of shit as these officers are, at least have some compassion for the woman who was being helped by that. But anyway, that is all I have for this article. So hopefully everything works out for them, but that's just just reading that just was so cringy, made my skin crawl. Hey. Anyway, so with that, I will see you in the next video.